newscast, and another man came on, and he was talking about that it wasn't a threat, but if the United States didn't come clean first about the extraterrestrials living amongst us, that another country, and he said, oh, let's say France, and named somebody from France. If United States doesn't come clean by May, then say in June, this person from France or France will come forward and disclose this information. And again, I heard that, and so it begins, and there it was. It's in your Alta reports, some of the Alta reports that we've talked about in the past about information. And then he also, and again, I came in and part of it was talking about a device, and I thought, now I just wonder if this was that device that gets absconded, and somebody's running across the world trying to keep this device. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's curious that it would fit.
Yes.
I mean, our stuff on that has been going for, I don't know, over a year, and the longer we have that in the data set ahead of any appearance of it, the more impact that it has. So, for instance, we had the language indicating knocked back to a previous age, 300,000 dead, relating to the tsunami, and we had that show up, I have to check with George, but it was probably 8 months beforehand.
Right.
Give you a lead time issue, so anything we see a year or more ahead of time in there is going to have a fairly large impact, at least within the populace of the planet from a linguistics viewpoint in their media. So very curious, yeah.
It is curious. And
now, of course, we also have had, as we've discussed before, the indication that the whole UFO/contact meme is just going to start rocketing off over the course of summer and into fall. And it may be that we have something on the order of, say, a 10,000-fold or 10,000% increase in sightings and discussion of it.
Absolutely. Well, and getting back to that TV thing, also in the report that I found was really interesting is that there was some things in there that was talking about maybe that their bands and stuff would even be like a mob kind of a scene and pushed over and stuff. I thought that was really interesting on the TV personalities,
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
But you can only take the lies so long before you get a little irritated,
And I think we've taken the lies long enough, don't you?
I certainly do, yes.
Yeah,
and I'm a little irritated, yeah.
Yeah, I'm way beyond irritated.
Yeah.
And I think what we'll do before we get into the next one, which is we're going to get into the next part of the part 6, we'll take a quick break so that we don't get interrupted partway through that, because that's a big one, because it's about the populace of USA and what's going on right here on our part of our neck of the woods. So for the rest of you, don't go away. We're going to be back with Cliff High here in just a minute. Hi, this is Rebecca Jernigan, host of Journeys with Rebecca radio show. Many of my esteemed guests discuss a future with possibilities of difficulties and potential catastrophic events. Now, the one common thread is that they all say, be prepared. And one of the most important things to be prepared with is your food supply. So my friends at Emergency Preparedness Direct have the answer for all of your food needs with storage capabilities of 7 to 30 years. They're nutritious, inexpensive, and will fit into most budgets. So I urge you to check them out at emergencypreparednessdirect.com or click on the banner links found throughout my website.
Fate magazine is proud to celebrate its 60th anniversary and our 700th issue. That's 60 years of bringing you true reports of the strange and unknown. Fate brings you the latest on all aspects of the paranormal, like angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, and much, much more. It's bigger and better than ever. Subscribe now by calling 1-800-728-2730 or online at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730 or www.fatemag.com. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
Hi, this is Rebecca Jernigan. I invite you to check out my colleagues at Certified Psychics. I have been working with them since the early 90s. and they provide such great services and great psychics from all types of modalities: tarot, astrology, clairvoyance, mediumship, and more. You know, they're there when you need to talk to someone right away, or you can make an appointment with your favorite psychic for a phone or live chat reading. You know, they also provide email readings too. So go ahead, call now, 1-800-717-7887, or log on to CertifiedPsychics.com. It's truly a great experience.
More than talk, it's entertaining insight and discoveries. You're listening to Journeys with Rebecca.
All right, everyone, we're back, and we're here with Cliff High, halfpasthuman.com, and we've been going through part of the Part 6 Alta Report 1309. And Cliff, I think we're going to go ahead and start and pick up where we left off, rather. Populace of USA, Turvy World, because that's going to lead into some other news stuff that's going on here, too, in the here and the now.
Okay. Within the Populace USA, we have a situation where data sets that we picked up in and processed prior to the interpretation for Part 5 were still growing while we were doing that interpretation, and so they didn't get processed until now. So initially, as in Part 5, we saw that the U.S. was going to get into a nasty war situation in early November. And by that, I want to be very specific here. We think that whatever is the casus belli, the cause of the war, begins on October 26th, but it takes a few days to incubate, if you will, and nothing really starts happening until about the 5th or 6th of November. Nothing very visible. And we had initially thought in Part 5 that would extend, that is to say, the active grumping around stage of the war would extend until maybe end of February. Problem was, when we were doing the processing for that, we had yet to process the sets that have now come on in. And so the interpretation for Part 6 shows that impact, not necessarily the continuation of active fighting, but certainly the impact of active suffering, if you will, continues well into 2010, perhaps all the way to the end of October of 2010. And so we had an alteration there between Part 5 and Part 6, because initially it looked like, very brief, still nasty and ugly sort of a war, but now it isn't all that brief. The impact runs basically nearly a year. So we have that at the same time that we have the dollar collapse ongoing, and that's really going to get nasty and ugly. Again, it seems tied to some events that occur on October 26th or very shortly thereafter. And I need to state that we can be as much as 18 days off just because that's the lag time in our processing. So if we got data in, it might take 18 days before we get around to processing it and thus get it through the interpretation. And because of our timing, it would get posted 18 days after it had originally been input. So we have that inherent 18-day fudge factor that we try and take into account. But our numbers are still pretty solid, I think, leading to October 26th and thereafter November 5th for all kinds of stuff to start breaking. And the problem is that we're having two cycles that are negative feedback loops that are feeding in on each other. These are the collapse of the dollar as the global reserve, and basically everybody who's stuck with all this useless green paper and or their even more abstract derivatives and so on, large sheets of paper supposedly covering huge masses of money, are going to get really upset. And we're going to have basically a resource battle at the same time that certain geopolitical moves are made by idiot governments.
Well, and that kind of goes along with, if anyone's kind of listening to the news reports, there's all this conversation, underlying kind of conversation about potential war with different peoples. That's in the works now. I mean, you can, if you're watching the news or listening to the news or even read it, you can see that there is a buildup of tensions everywhere. It's just a matter of who's going to break it out first.
It sure seems that way, yeah.
It does, and it's, hopefully we can change all that. I do believe there's a power to change all that. But that being said, we're talking about your reports, and this